Good morning. Today I'm going to be showing you how I do my brow routine. This is probably one of my most asked questions on TikTok is how do I do my brows with my copper hair? So if we take a look at my hair, you can see it's pretty red, pretty copper. How do I do it? What products do I use? Just because finding the perfect colors for red hair, copper hair, any of that is, there's hair right there, is kind of tricky. I went through a lot of trial and error to find the perfect products for me. So this is my brows right now. It's just enough red to match my hair without being like bright red on my brows. So I'm going to show you how I do this. So let's get started. Okay, so here is my brows naturally. I do have them laminated, so I'm going to brush them up and you'll be able to see kind of what that looks like. So this is my routine for fairly freshly laminated brows. I'm about a week and a half after getting them done. So this is the routine that I use towards the end of my lamination or when my lamination is not there. I use more like brow glue type products to hold my brows in place. So if you want to see a separate routine for that to really get that look of laminated brows without having them laminated, just let me know. But this is just kind of what my brows look right now. So what lamination does is it just kind of lets you move your hairs really however. So I'm just going to go in and brush them up, and you can kind of see that they're doing it on their own without product, and that's really what the lamination does. So I don't have to go in with as much product. So I'm just going to brush all of that upwards just to get the shape that I want. So now that my brows are looking like this, for the pencil, I'm going to be taking the new Benefit Gimme Brow Plus Volumizing Pencil. This is, I love this so much. It does work best if you don't have a lot of foundation in your brow area, a lot of skincare in your brow area. Otherwise, it'll kind of skip a little bit because it is a more like powdery type pencil. So if you have a lot of moisture on your skin, it's not going to glide as smoothly. So I do use the shade 2.75. For me, that's like the perfect color for the copper hair that I have right now. It's like the perfect amount of red. I get a lot of questions on how I do my brows with the red hair, so this is what I use. So I'm going to go in with that pencil, and if you look at my brows, you can see that they kind of go straight, then they go up, and then they arch. So I want to make this a lot straighter. So again, I'm just going to brush my hairs how I want them to lay, and then with that pencil, I'm going to start, and I'm barely pressing, I'm going to start right here where that arch is. I'm going to make that straighter. And then I'm also going to go down to the tail. So obviously this is a lot more red than my hair, or not my hair, my brow hairs. Obviously it matches my hair. So I'm going to very lightly fill in this space right here. And then the best thing about this pencil is where it's a powdery pencil, it blends like an eyeshadow would. So I just take the spoolie on the other side and start to fade that out, which will give that red tint to the rest of my brow hairs. And then I'm just going to start going through and flicking up. So I've kind of created the shape that I want. I do want my tail to be a little bit longer. I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to enhance this arch right here just a little bit on the tail. And then I'm going to keep building that up, taking a look at it, and then blending it out with my spoolie. I'm not really worried about making like a huge mess with this just because I will go in and clean it up. So you can see my brows are giving more shape. They're a lot more like copper. So for the front, I'm just very lightly going to flick that up, really just because I want to run that color through that. So before I do the inner part of my brow, I do like to kind of clean up the shape just to give me an idea of what I'm working with. So I'm going in with the Lancome Tant Idole Concealer just because it's a very lightweight, fuller coverage concealer, so it doesn't look very heavy and cakey under here. And I'm taking this Anastasia A4 brush, and just with a tiny bit of product, I'm just going to start cleaning up that line. I'm not really carving out the brow per se. I'm just kind of removing that product that I got everywhere. I'm just going in with a little bit of product. I'm fading it inwards, so you can see it's kind of creating that shape. Then I'm going to completely wipe off my brush and start to fade that downwards. And I also go along the tail. I don't clean up the top of my brows, but just because I'm kind of messy, I do like to go right here along the tail. Again, just to clean up that product. I don't want it to be super harsh, like it's still very soft. And then if I feel like an area is looks too like intense, I'll just go with my finger to blend it out. Next, I'm going in with the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint. This is in the shade Ash Brown. This is what I like to use for the front of the brows. I've tried using the more red tones and I just feel like they pull too red and they look too fake. So this one is good for me just because it looks the most natural. With this product, I always store it laying on its side because when I've had it stored pointing downwards, I get way too much product. When I've had it stored facing upwards, I don't get enough product. So laying flat is like perfect for me. So what I do for this is my brows start kind of far out from probably where they should. So I go in with this pen, and then I just do a couple brow strokes first to kind of get where I want it to start, and then I go in very lightly in between them. That way it's not just like a bunch of random lines. And this is very hard to do on camera. Once we get to this point, I want to blend out right here because I don't like how harsh it is. So I always go in with my spoolie and just kind of diffuse that bottom line. That way it's a little bit more natural where it starts. And then rebrush everything up and just kind of take a look at the brows and see if I need to change anything. Okay, so the next step is completely unnecessary for most people, but I do go in with the Anastasia brow pen. This is in the shade Caramel. I feel like it's too red for up here, but I like to run it through the brows. Obviously, you can just use the one color of the one product, but I want to go in and add some brow strokes in certain areas where I don't have the hair. Plus, this will also just give that overall more warm tone look to the brows to match my hair. And I might like flick a little bit through the front, but usually not that much. I can't find a good color in the NYX one, so that's why I use the ABH one. For the brow gel, since I did fully fill in my brows and I made them more red, I'm just going to go in with my Benefit 24-Hour Brow Setter. If I didn't do all that steps and I just want to put a brow gel in that's going to match my hair, I go in with the Anastasia Brunette, which is more of a coppery red tone color. So we're just going to go in with the Benefit one today just to set everything. And I just kind of brush it through and just get it in the shape that I want, because this one is pretty heavy duty, so it's going to stay wherever you put it. So I just brush everything up. I do trim my brows, so I usually don't have the need to like comb over the top. But that is pretty much my brow routine. So now you can see it matches my hair color a little bit better. It's fuller, it's thicker, but it's still more natural, so you could say. But yeah, that is my brow routine, and I hope you guys like it.